The Zarnathi Empire had never lost a war. Their fleet, a swarm of jagged black ships, had swallowed stars. They spoke in clicks and growls, their chitinous bodies armored like tanks. To them, Earth was a speck, a Class C planet ripe for conquest. Its humans were primitive, hairless apes with tiny rockets and louder TV commercials. The Zarnathi High Command had studied Earth for decades. They knew humans fought wars with oil, religion, and bad diets. They knew humans built bombs that could flatten cities but argued about nukes on social media. The Zarnathi laughed. Conquering Earth would be like swatting a mosquito. They arrived on a Tuesday. Their ships sliced through Earth's atmosphere like razors, plasma cannons glowing. Cities below should have panicked. Sirens should have wailed. Instead, the human waved. In Tokyo, children held up signs. "Welcome aliens. Try our sushi." In New York, a marching band played jazz. In Moscow, soldiers stood at attention, not to fight, but to salute. The Zarnathi commander, General Vraktel, stared at the screens. "This is absurd," he growled. Then came the diplomats. A human in a crisp suit stepped forward. He had a name tag. "Hi, I'm David." Behind him stood a crowd of smiling faces holding flowers and cameras. "General Vraktel," David said, bowing. "We've been expecting you." The Zarnathi froze. "Expecting us?" Vraktel clicked his mandibles. "You know who we are?" "Of course." David grinned. "You're the Zarnathi. You conquered 372 planets. You eat live bugs for breakfast. You've got a meme on TikTok." He handed Vraktel a brochure. "Here's our peace treaty. We'll even throw in free Wi-Fi." The aliens hissed. This wasn't in their playbook. On other worlds, they'd dropped asteroids from orbit. They'd bred plagues that turned skin to glass. But here, humans were joking. Vraktel's second-in-command, Commander Zelora, leaned in. "They're stalling," she hissed. "They must have weapons." David overheard. "Nope. We banned nukes in 1945. Mostly." He winked. "Why don't you come to the capital? We've got fireworks tonight." The Zarnathi debated. Their scans showed no armies, no missiles, just highways and shopping malls. Finally, Vraktel agreed. "We'll watch your fireworks," he said. "Then we conquer." That night, Earth's capital glittered. Skyscrapers twinkled like stars. The Zarnathi delegation stood on a rooftop, flanked by humans in sparkly dresses. David raised a hand. "Ready for the show?" A drum roll echoed. Then, boom! Fireworks lit the sky, painting dragons, hearts, and a giant emoji. The Zarnathi blinked. Zelora muttered, "This is ridiculous." But Vraktel wasn't watching the sky. He was staring at the ground. Far below, trucks rolled into the desert. They dragged strange metal panels. Workers in orange suits bolted them together. "What are they building?" Vraktel demanded. David sipped tea. "Oh, just a surprise. You know, first impressions matter." Zelora zoomed in with her visor. The panels formed circles, miles wide. Symbols glowed on them. Ancient Earth languages, Sanskrit, Arabic, Chinese. "They're not weapons," she said. "Just circles." David smiled. "They're called launch pads. For our guests." Vraktel clicked angrily. "Guests were conquerors." David shrugged. "Same thing, right?" Morning. The Zarnathi slept uneasily. Their ships hovered above cities ready to fire, but dawn brought a sound like thunder. Not from the sky, from the ground. The desert shook, sand cracked, and then the earth split, towers rose. Sleek, silver, miles long, they pierced clouds, their shadows swallowing cities. Humans cheered, children pointed, a voice boomed from every speaker on Earth. "Welcome to the human empire." Vraktel scrambled to his ship. "Scan them." "What are they?" The AI stuttered. "Unknown, power levels, off the charts." Zelora stared. They can't be real, we'd have seen them. But there they were, dozens of Star Destroyers buried underground, hidden for centuries. David stood beside the Zarnathi, sipping coffee. Cool, huh? We built them. Just in case. In case of what? Zalora snapped. David's smile faded. You guys study Earth history, right? Fractel nodded. David's eyes narrowed. Then you know what happens to species that invade us. The Zarnathi froze. They'd read Earth's history, how humans fought each other, wars over land, water, shoes, how they'd survived ice ages, plagues, and disco, how they'd lost 80% of their kind in 1 century, and kept going. David whispered, You thought you were the predators, but this planet? It's a farm, and we're the farmers, the Zarnathi commander hissed. Farmers don't build Star Destroyers. David laughed. Sure they do. Just ask the chickens. The escape. The Zarnathi fled. Their ships darted into space, but Earth's satellites lit up. Lasers latched onto them, not to destroy, but to track. A message flashed. You're welcome here, but next time bring better gifts. Fractel growled. This isn't over. David waved goodbye. Sure, General. Let's do lunch next time. As the Zarnathi vanished, Zalora glanced back. Earth's Star Destroyers gleamed below. They tricked us, she muttered. David's voice crackled through her translator. Nope. We just played your game. Better. Back on Zarnath. Zalora stood before her class, trembling. Her war counselor Graktu watched coldly. Tell them, he growled. She faced the young aliens. Humans are not prey. They're wolves in sheep's clothing. And their planet? She paused, remembering. The Star Destroyers. It's not a farm, it's a vault. Graktu nodded. And we just opened the door. On the planet Zarnath, 14-year-old Zalora slumped in her chair, staring at the cracked screen of her study pod. Her classmates chattered loudly, buzzing with excitement about the recent Earth incident. The Zarnathi Empire had retreated from the blue-green planet, and rumors swirled about what had gone wrong. Some said the humans had tricked them with illusions. Others whispered about secret weapons. But Zalora knew one thing for certain. She hated her mandatory war counselor. Sessions next, droned the receptionist outside the office. Zalora groaned and dragged herself forward. The door hissed open and she stepped inside. Her war counselor, Graktu, loomed in the corner like a mountain of scars. His chitinous armor was dented, his left mandible missing entirely. He didn't look up from the hologram he was studying, a grainy video of humans building something massive in the desert. You're late, Graktu growled. I'm not late. Time doesn't exist here, Zalora muttered, flopping into a chair. Graktu snarled, his voice like grinding rocks. You think humans care about time? They eat time for breakfast. They turn seconds into centuries. Sit up, we have work to do. Zalora rolled her eyes. She'd heard this speech a dozen times. Every Zarnathi teen assigned to human studies got a war counselor. It was a joke. Why waste resources on a species that hadn't even invented warp drive? Graktu slammed a new hologram onto the table. It showed a battlefield from centuries ago, humans in muddy trenches shooting primitive rifles. This, he said, is the Battle of Somme, July 1916. Humans fought for months, lost over 1 million lives. For what? Zalora shrugged. Land? Wrong. Pride. Graktu's claw stabbed the hologram. They knew they'd lose. They still fought. Why? Because they're stupid? Because they're hungry. Graktu snapped. They lose and they come back hungrier. Look. He flicked to another image, a city in ruins, smoke rising from shattered buildings. 1945. Hiroshima. Humans. Dropped fire from the sky, burned their own kind, and what did they do next? They apologized? Zalora guessed. No, they rebuilt. Faster, stronger. They turned ash into steel. And they laughed while doing it. Graktu's voice darkened. That's the secret. Humans don't win because they're smart. They win because they cheat. HFY Forbidden Archives. Later that night, Zalora sneaked into the school's restricted AI vault. Graktu's lessons had stuck in her mind like a splinter. Why did humans matter so much? She typed her clearance code and hacked the system. Files flooded the screen. Project HFY, Human First Years. Earth Psychological Warfare. Tactics. Why every Zarnathi needs a war counselor. She opened the last file. A single line glowed. Humans are not species. They are a virus. Once you see them, you cannot unsee them. A chill crawled down Zalora's spine. She clicked deeper. More videos appeared, footage of Earth's history. A man in a white coat planting a flag on the moon. Children holding hands during a war. A speech from 1962. We choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. What are you doing? Zalora spun around. Graktu stood in the doorway, his eyes glowing red. You're not supposed to be here, he said flatly. I wanted to understand, she stammered. Graktu stepped closer. Understand what? Why we're scared of them. The old soldier snorted. Scared? We're not scared, we're respectful. Respectful? They're hairless apes. Graktu's claws clicked on the desk. You think conquest is about strength? No, it's about stories. Humans rewrite reality. They lost 80% of their species in 1 century and called it progress. They built bombs to kill millions and called it peace. They'll smile while stabbing you in the back and apologize for the bloodstains. Zalora shook her head. But why teach us this? We're not invading Earth. We are now, Graktu said. The lesson. The next day, Zalora sat in class, her mind racing. Her teacher, Ms. Vec, tapped the board. Today's lesson, human psychology. Why do they fight? A student named Ralk raised his claw. They're stupid? Wrong, Ms. Vec said. They're unpredictable. She played a video. Humans in ancient times sacrificing animals to gods. Then a clip of a modern protest, people chanting, "No war," while soldiers marched behind them. Humans hate war, Ms. Vec said, but they love fighting. They'll protest violence, then cheer when their side wins. They'll die for ideals they can't explain, and they'll raise their children to do the same. Zalora raised her claw. But why? What drives them? Ms. Vec's eyes narrowed. Survival, hunger, pride, but mostly storytelling. They believe in things that aren't real. Flags, nations, love. They'll die for an idea. Ralk snorted. That's pathetic. Is it? Ms. Vec said. The Zarnathi Empire has conquered 372 planets. Humans have conquered nothing. Yet their stories are everywhere. Their music, their movies, their memes. Even now, our satellites pick up their broadcasts. They're laughing at us. The test. That afternoon, Graktu handed Zalora a tablet. Your final test, he said. Find one human who isn't ready to burn their world to save it. Zalora scoffed. Easy. Most humans are weak, then prove it. She spent hours scanning Earth's networks. She watched a farmer in Kenya fixing a broken tractor, a doctor in Brazil stitching a wound, a teacher in Norway explaining math. They looked normal, until she saw the farmer's hands, calloused, scarred. The doctor's eyes, tired but determined. The teacher's voice, calm but fierce. They're all like this, she whispered. Graktu nodded. Every human is a soldier, even the ones who think they're not. They've been training for war since birth by surviving each other. Zalora's claws dug into the desk. But why? Why would they do this? Because they know the truth, Graktu said. The universe is chaos, and the only way to survive is to control the story. The revelation. That night, Zalora dreamed of Earth. She saw deserts bloom into cities, oceans swallowed by islands, humans dancing on the ruins of wars they'd lost and won. When she woke, Graktu was waiting. "The High Command has decided," he said. "We're sending you to Earth." "Me?" "To learn, to watch, to understand." "But I'm just a kid." "You're perfect," Graktu said. "They'll think you're harmless until it's too late." Zalora's heart pounded. She thought of the Star Destroyers buried underground, the fireworks, David's smile. Humans weren't weak. They were wolves in sheep's clothing, and now she'd be walking among them. The Zarnathi fleet froze in Earth's orbit. Their ships, sleek and jagged, hovered like predators mid-strike. Below them, the Star Destroyers loomed, silver giants rooted in the desert, their surfaces gleaming like blades. General Vraktel's claws dug into his command chair. This is impossible," he hissed. "Impossible?" Commander Zalora muttered. Her eyes scanned the data flooding her visor. Energy readings spiked, shield frequencies shifted. The destroyers weren't just ships, they were alive. Or at least they acted like they were. "Scan them again." Vraktel barked. The AI stuttered. "Unknown alloy, unknown power source, unknown intent." Zalora's blood ran cold. Intent. Before anyone could answer, Earth's satellites flared to life. The trap springs. Across the planet, humans smiled. In a bunker beneath the Nevada desert, David, the same diplomat who'd greeted the Zarnathi with flowers and fireworks, leaned back in his chair. His team of engineers, linguists, and ex-soldiers watched the screens, their faces lit by the glow of orbiting satellites. "Phase 2? Asked a woman with a scar across her cheek. David nodded. "Hit their comms. Let's make them feel alone." A technician tapped a button. Above Earth, the satellites hummed. Then, with a silent pulse, they unleashed a wave of static. Zarnathi ships shuddered as their systems crashed. Radar, navigation, even life support. "What's happening?" Vraktel roared. "Jamming!" Zalora yelled. "They're cutting us off!" From Earth's surface, David's voice boomed, through every Zarnathi translator. "You studied our weaknesses. Did you ever wonder why we let you land?" The Zarnathi scrambled. Vraktel turned to his weapons officer. "Fire plasma cannons. Obliterate the destroyers." The officer trembled. Sir, they're not targeting us. They're just watching." The diplomat's game. Back on the rooftop, David sipped coffee, watching the chaos unfold. Beside him stood a teenage girl in a school uniform, her face half hidden by a scarf. She glanced at him. "You said they'd panic," she said. "They will," David said. "But first they'll try to bluff." As if on cue, a hologram flickered in front of him. Vraktel's image glared down, his mandibles twitching. "Human, we demand you surrender your weapons," David laughed. "Surrender? General, we're not even using our weapons." Vraktel's eye twitched. "Then why do you threaten us?" David gestured to the sky. "Threaten? We're just showing off. You know, like when you brought your fleet here? Big ships, loud noises, the whole 'we're powerful' vibe?" The Zarnathi general snarled. "You think games will save you?" "Nope. But physics will," David said. He snapped his fingers. The holograms. Earth's skies lit up, huge holograms projected from the satellites, images of human history, wars, revolutions, disasters. First, Hiroshima. Then, the moon landing. A clip of a nuclear test followed by a speech. "We choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard." The Zarnathi watched, stunned. Zalora leaned closer. "What is this?" David's voice echoed through the holograms. "You think you studied us? You only saw what we let you see." Another image, a black and white photo of soldiers in trenches, mud clinging to their faces. "World War I," David said. "We lost 16 million, and then the image shifted to a mushroom cloud. We did worse to ourselves." Vraktel clicked angrily. "Why show us this?" To remind you, David said, that humans don't need enemies to destroy worlds. We do it ourselves, and when we survive, he grinned, we get hungry. The panic. Back on Zarnath, Zelora's war counselor, Graktu, watched the holograms on a grainy feed. His claws tightened around his desk. They're weaponizing history, he muttered. Around him, the High Command argued. They're bluffing, one general spat. Their ships are buried, they can't move. But their stories can, Graktu growled. They're inside our heads now. A young officer blinked. What do you mean? Graktu slammed a fist onto the table. Humans don't conquer planets, they conquer reality. They make losers feel like heroes. They turn pain into pride. And now, he pointed at the hologram of a smiling human child holding a rocket-shaped toy. Now they're making us afraid. The human edge. Back on Earth, the teenage girl beside David tugged his sleeve. Why are you doing this? He glanced at her. Doing what? Showing them our worst moments. Why not hide them? David smiled. Because the Zarnathi think weakness is a flaw, but we know better. He turned to the others in the bunker. Every human alive today is descended from survivors. People who clawed their way out of wars, famines, plagues. We don't need perfect history, we need resilience. The girl frowned. But won't they use this against us? They already tried, David said. They expected us to break. Instead, we rebuilt and laughed while doing it. He gestured to the holograms. This isn't a threat, it's a warning. Don't underestimate us. We've already lost more than you ever will. The escape plan. In orbit, Vraktel paced. We must retreat. No, Zelora snapped. We need answers. Answers, the general roared. They've outplayed us. Zelora's mind raced. The humans weren't attacking, they were teaching. Every hologram, every story was a lesson. We've survived worse. Try us again, and you'll regret it. She stepped forward. General, let me go down there. Vraktel froze. What? To Earth. Alone. I need to see what they're hiding. You think they'll let you? They already invited. Me, Zelora said. Remember the brochure? Peace talks, free Wi-Fi. Vraktel clicked his mandibles. You're reckless. I'm curious, Zelora said. And curiosity is what beat your fleet. The landing. Hours later, Zelora stood on Earth's surface. The air smelled strange, like rain and smoke. David greeted her holding a clipboard. Welcome back, Commander. You knew I'd come, she said. David winked. You're predictable, like all smart people. He led her through a city. Humans waved. Children pointed. A vendor handed her a hot dog. Try it, David said. It's beef. We stole the WAM recipe from aliens. Zelora took a bite. Spicy, greasy, addictive. Why feed me? To prove a point, David said. You think conquest is about fear. We think it's about exchange, trade, stories, hot dogs. They stopped at a building, a school. Inside, kids laughed, scribbled on tablets, and chased each other. A teacher called out, Class, meet our guest, she's from Zarnath. The children stared. Then, one raised a hand. Do you have TikTok? Zelora blinked. What? A girl grinned. Our teacher said you're like us, scary on the outside, nerdy on the inside. David leaned close. See? You're not invaders. You're just late to the party. The hidden truth. That night, Zelora sat alone on a rooftop. David joined her, holding 2 cups of tea. You're not like other conquerors, she said. Nope, David agreed. We're worse, she frowned. How? We don't need to conquer you, he said. We'll just exist until you realize you can't beat us. That's not a strategy. It is, David said. We survived ice ages by eating bugs. We built cities after plagues. You think Star Destroyers are scary? He chuckled. That's just our mood lighting. Zell-Ora stared at the stars. What are you? David sipped his tea. We're the virus. You're the immune system, and right now, he smiled. You're losing. Zell-Ora wandered through the city, her claws clicking against the pavement. The air buzzed with human noise. Cars honking, music blaring, strangers laughing over coffee. She'd studied Earth for years, but nothing prepared her for the chaos. Humans moved like ants in a storm, yet they never collided. They argued, then hugged. They carried tiny glowing boxes that held entire worlds in their palms. David walked, beside her holding a clipboard. You look tense, he said. I'm confused, Zell-Ora admitted. Why show me all this? To prove a point, David said. You think conquest is about strength? We think it's about adaptability. He led her to a building labeled Project HFY, Human First Years. The sign was faded, the windows cracked. What's this? Zell-Ora asked. A school, David said. For humans who've lost everything. The School of Survival. Inside, the classrooms were loud. Kids shouted answers. Teachers scribbled equations on chalkboards. A group of teens huddled around a robot arguing about its programming. Zell-Ora peeked into a history lesson. A teacher pointed at a screen showing a black and white photo of a battlefield. This is the Battle of Stalingrad, the teacher said. Over 2 million people died, but look closer. The image zoomed in. A child crouched in the rubble, holding a loaf of bread. A nurse stitched a wound with thread from her dress. An old man repaired a broken radio with wire and duct tape. These people didn't just survive, the teacher said. They thrived. They rebuilt. They laughed. They told jokes about the war while it was happening. A student raised his hand. But why? What made them keep going? The teacher smiled. Because humans don't need reasons. We make them up. Zell-Ora turned to David. You teach your children this? Of course, David said. Why do you think we won every war? They didn't win. They lost millions. David shrugged. Losing doesn't matter, surviving does. The Forbidden Files. Later, Zell-Ora sneaked into the school's basement. Dust coated the shelves, but one file glowed faintly. Project. HFY, Class 7, The Art of Cheating. She opened it. Inside were videos. First clip, a human in 1945, standing in front of a mushroom cloud. We built this to end a war, he said. Then we used it to start a new one. Second clip, a speech from 1969. We went to the moon, a man declared, not because it was easy, but because we needed to prove we could. Third clip, a teacher in 2077. Today's lesson, how to lie to an AI. Remember, machines think logically, humans don't. That's our advantage. Zell-Ora's heart raced. She'd seen this before, on Zarnath. The war counselors had shown her fragments of Earth's history. But here, the truth was raw, unfiltered. A final video loaded. It showed a human child doodling on a napkin. The drawing was crude, a spaceship with a sticker. Aliens? Please, we've got a test tomorrow. The screen flickered. Text flashed. Humans don't fight wars, they fight reality, and reality always loses. The War Counselor's Secret. Back on Zarnath, Grok-2 paced his office. The High Command had summoned him. They demanded answers. They're not a threat, General, Fractal growled. They're just messy. Grok-2 slammed his claw on the table. Messy? They weaponize their own weakness. How? They let us see their failures, Grok-2 said. Their wars, their plagues, their lies. But they didn't, Kerit. They turned loss into a lesson, pain into pride. And now? He spat. Now their children laugh at us. A young officer blinked. You're saying their weakness is their strength? Exactly, Grok-2 snarled. And we fell for it. Out of the truth in the desert. On Earth, David led Zalora to the Nevada desert. The Star Destroyers loomed ahead, their surfaces etched with ancient symbols. Why bury them here? She asked. To hide them, David said. But also, to remind us. Remind you of what? That we're always preparing, David said. Every war, every disaster, every pandemic. We rebuild, and we remember. He pointed at a symbol on the destroyer's hull, a circle split into 4 parts. This is the Ouroboros, he said, a snake eating its own tail. It means, endings are beginnings. Zalora stared at the symbol. You're not just surviving, she whispered. You're evolving. David grinned. That's the plan. The human algorithm. Back in the city, Zalora visited a tech lab. Scientists buzzed around a glowing chamber. Inside, a machine hummed, a quantum computer, its core pulsing like a heartbeat. What is this? She asked. Our secret weapon, a researcher said. Meet HFY 9. HFY? Human first year, the researcher said. It's an AI trained on Earth's history, wars, revolutions, disasters. It learns how humans cheat. Zalora leaned closer. Cheat? Yep, the researcher said. We fed it every trick in the book. How to lie, how to bluff, how to win by losing. And now? He tapped a screen. The AI's voice crackled through the speakers. Hello, Commander. Zalora, you're late. She froze. The researcher laughed. HFY 9 predicted you'd come here. It says you'll leave tomorrow, but you'll be different. How? Because you finally get it, the AI said. Humans aren't strong. We're hungry. And once we're in your head, we never leave. The final lesson. That night, Zalora sat on a rooftop with David. The stars above glittered like shards of glass. You're going back tomorrow, David said. She nodded. I'll tell them the truth. That we're unstoppable? No, she said. That we're inevitable. David raised an eyebrow. We Zarnathi conquer planets, Zalora said. But you conquer yourselves. You turn pain into power. You make stories out of scars. And you pass it down. Her voice softened. Your children are already warriors. And they don't even know it. David smiled. That's the point. He handed her a tablet. One last gift. She opened. A video played. A human child doodling on a lunch tray. The drawing showed a Star Destroyer with a sticker. Aliens, please. We've got a test tomorrow. Zalora laughed. It was bitter. Sad. You're not a species, she said. You're a virus, David winked. And you're the immune system. Good luck. The Zarnathi fleet limped back to Zarnath, their ships scarred by Earth's silent victory. General Vraktel paced his war room, his claws clicking against the obsidian table. They tricked us, he growled, with stories, with holograms. Commander. Zalora stood at the edge of the room, her mandibles twitching. She'd returned from Earth changed, the hot dogs, the laughter, the child's doodle on a napkin. It all haunted her. They didn't trick us, she said quietly. They showed us what? Vraktel snapped. That they're already inside our heads. The Zarnathi response. Back on Zarnath, panic spread like rot. The High Command held emergency meetings, their voices echoing through chitin-walled chambers. Earth is a threat, one general barked. We must strike first. Graktu, Zalora's war counselor, slammed his claw on the table. No, we adapt. The room fell silent. They're not like other species, Graktu growled. They don't conquer planets, they conquer stories. If we attack again, we'll lose, because we'll start thinking like them. Then what do? A counselor asked. Zalora stepped forward. We study them, not as enemies, as teachers. Earth's quiet triumph. On Earth, life resumed as if nothing had happened. Cities bustled. Kids argued over video games, politicians debated taxes, but beneath the surface the world shifted. In a Nevada bunker, David sipped coffee, watching a live feed of Zarnathi ships fleeing into space. His team celebrated, but he just smiled. Phase 3? A soldier asked. David shook his head. No, Phase 3, they're already beaten. How? Because they'll never stop thinking about us, David said. And that's the real war. He turned to the teenage girl from earlier, the one who'd watched the holograms. Your turn, he said. She nodded. Her name was Lena, and she'd been chosen for Project HFY Next Generation. Her job? To make sure Earth stayed unbeatable. The new curriculum. At Lena's school, history class was no longer about dates and battles. It was about strategy. Today's lesson, human psychology, the teacher said. A hologram flickered, a Zarnathi commander staring at a star destroyer. Why did the aliens retreat? A student raised her hand. Because they realized humans cheat? Better, the teacher said. They realized humans cheat by surviving. Lena scribbled notes. She'd been trained since childhood for this. Schools across Earth now taught kids to think like warriors, without picking up a weapon. Math problems became logistics puzzles. Literature classes dissected propaganda. Even recess was a test. How do you win by losing? After class, Lena walked past a mural painted on the gym wall. It showed a star destroyer, its hull etched with the words, "We don't fight wars, we fight reality." Force the Zarnathi spy back on Earth. A Zarnathi spy crouched in the shadows of a playground. His ship had crashed years ago, and he'd disguised himself as a human janitor. No one suspected him, not even the kids who handed him crayons to fix their broken toys. He watched a little girl doodle on the pavement. Her drawing was messy, a spaceship labeled Star Destroyer Jenner. Beside it, stick figures waved goodbye to a bug-eyed alien. The spy's heart sank. They're already teaching their children, he thought. They don't need weapons, they just need to exist. He radioed Zarnath. "Mission update?" crackled the voice of Grok-2. The spy stared at the girl. "Tell them, we've already Torsurer the hidden cost, and not everyone celebrated Earth's victory. In a quiet suburb, an ex-soldier named Marcus sat on his porch, staring at the stars. He'd helped bury the Star Destroyers decades ago, back when the world feared nuclear war. Now he wondered if they'd made a mistake. His daughter joined him. "Dad, why do we keep preparing for wars?" Marcus sighed. "Because humans survive by expecting the worst. But isn't that sad?" "It's necessary," he said. "But it's also what makes us dangerous." Inside, the TV played a news clip. Alien species retreats from Earth. Experts speculate on next moves. Marcus muttered, "They'll be back, but they'll learn." "How?" "They'll learn to think like us," he said. "And that's worse than any bomb." The final broadcast. Weeks later, Earth satellites picked up a signal from Zarnath. It wasn't a threat, it was a message. The screen flickered. Zelora appeared, her voice calm. "To the people of Earth, you've shown us your strength. We won't attack. But know this, your stories have infected us. We will learn. We will adapt. And one day," she paused, her mandibles twitching into something like a smile, "we'll come back, not as enemies, but as equals." The feed cut out. David watched the broadcast from his bunker, then turned to Lena. "What's the answer?" She grinned. "Tell them yes, but only if they bring better gifts." The legacy. Years passed. The Zarnathi never returned. But rumors spread. A school on Zarnath began teaching human studies. A Zarnathi poet wrote a best-selling book, How to Lie to a Virus. And in the deepest corners of space, a meme circulated, a drawing of a star destroyer with the caption, Aliens, please, we've got a test tomorrow. On Earth, Lena grew up. She became a diplomat, then a teacher. She never fired a shot, but she trained a new generation to think like soldiers. One day, a student asked her, "Why do we keep preparing for aliens?" Lena smiled. "Because the real war isn't fought with lasers. It's fought with ideas. And once humans get inside your head," she winked, "you can't leave."